Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty, welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with The Compensatory Concept. I am Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. On the line with me from Washington, D.C. is, I call him the doctor, but you can call him Mr. Neely Fuller. Good morning, Dr. Fuller, and again, how are you?
Still learning.
Still learning. All righty. Good. If you would like to get in contact with the show, you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, and we will get in contact with you. Now, Dr. Fuller has written 2 books, the United Independent Compensatory Code Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action, and the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide. And Dr. Fuller, if someone wants to get in contact with you to get these 2 outstanding articles or books, how would they do that?
They just go straight to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook for victims of racism and the counter-racist word guide, which is an additional book to the basic textbook. Now, they can either get one or the other or both books and just follow the instructions there at producejustice.com. That's like production. That's producejustice.com. There's a brief description of both books and the method for ordering. Okay,
that's good. Now, did that problem with the distribution get itself worked out? Because someone had mentioned to me that they had tried to get a book, but they were having some problems with the distribution system. Is that all worked out now, as far as you know?
Yes, there shouldn't be any problem with the distribution system at all.
Okay.
I mean, if they go to producejustice.com, it shouldn't be any problem.
Okay. All righty. Now, before we get started here, actually a question came in, and it's kind of long, so I'll read it to you. It says, Mr. Bobby, would you ask Dr. Fuller, what do you make of how over the past 20 years we have seen some high-profile black men being made the face of some major issues, i.e., at one time Clarence Thomas with the sexual harassment, O.J. Simpson and domestic violence, and now Ray Rice. Michael Jackson, pedophilia and child molestation. Michael Vick with animal, with animal and, let's see here, animal and abuse, Tony Dungy with the so-called homophobia, and to some extent the president being made the face of incompetence or being made the blame for the current economic situation here. And then I'll leave it here and listen. Okay. What would you make of all that, Dr. Fuller?
Well, we're in a system of racism. That's the government of the entire planet. It's called the system of white supremacy. That's my view based on following the logic and following the evidence. That's why we have black programs and all like that. I mean, there would be no such thing as a black program if it wasn't any such thing as racism. There'd be no discussion about race if there was no racism. So you look at, well, what is racism and what does this affect? Mm-hmm. And when you examine it, you find that this thing called the system of white supremacy in capital letters is the only real government on the planet. There are words and labels that are put to what people are doing here and there, and Africa and Asia, and people in commerce, and people in politics, people in religion, and all like that. But when you look at the overriding force in all of the areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, any area of activity that you mention, the biggest force in each one of these areas worldwide is an argument about what color somebody is. Just on the evidence. Anybody can go out. You don't have to just pay attention to what I'm saying other than to notice that I'm saying this. But I always tell people, don't believe anything that you hear when it comes to this race issue in particular. Just don't believe it. Don't take it and run with it. Just think about it and then walk out anywhere in the world and take a look for yourself and try to see what you're looking at and say, now, in the area of economics, is the biggest thing governing how people behave in economics based on what color somebody is? So take a look and see who's controlling the use of time and energy among the people of the planet. Now, that doesn't say that, because I keep using the term white supremacy, I'm not talking about all white people. I'm talking about those white people who have chosen to be white supremacists, which means dominating and mistreating people based on color. That's the non-white people of the planet. Are these the most powerful people on the planet? That's the question.
Yes, sir.
Now, and so I say yes. Now, when I give that answer that I just gave is either true or false. That's what you want to go for. Now, Neely Fuller said that the most powerful people on this planet in every area of activity, in motivating people, in moving people around, and having people doing this and having people doing that, the most powerful people on the planet are the people who believe in dominating and mistreating people based on color. And these people, the title for them that would fit would be white supremacists. Now, is it true what Neely Fuller is saying, that they are the most powerful people on the planet, and they are also the smartest people on the planet, because power goes with being smart. You're not going to be powerful very long if you're not also smart. Mm-hmm. Now, smart doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means smart. You're able. What does smart mean? Able to do what you want to do, and nobody knows how to stop you from doing it. Now, it takes a smart person to do that. Mm-hmm. Just go anywhere on the planet, do what you want to do, and people who say, look, I don't like what you're doing. You don't like what I'm doing, but do you know how to stop me? Mm-hmm. And when the answer is no, that's a very smart person that you're dealing with.
Well, Dr. Fuller, on the line of that questioning with Clarence Thomas and President Obama and other black men who seem to be labeled, Michael Vick with the dog fighting, Clarence Thomas with the sexual harassment, people calling the President of the United States, which I believe is a corporation, incompetent. How would you address her question? I'm
glad you got me back in focus, because I have a tendency to wander too much. Right.
But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How I would address that is, in a system of white supremacy, black males have always, as far back as I can remember, tried to flex their muscles and tried to look, strut down the street. Black, if you notice, all down during my existence on the planet, black males more than anybody try to come up with new ways of walking in order to get attention so that they can show that they have some pride. In other words, everybody look at me. I am somebody. I'm not somebody just to be ignored. Just in the old days, we would had a tendency to strut, what they call strut. That's a form of walking. Walk down the sidewalk and lean back. And when you walk, you raise your legs up kind of high as you move along, but not too high. So they call it strutting, looking real dignified. All right, so over a period of time, nobody paid much attention to that. Just a strutting Negro. And so then some of the younger people start walking all over the sidewalk, taking up the sidewalk. And with what I called it, I gave it a name because there wasn't a name for it. I called it the Kansas City slide. Because they would walk like they're dragging one foot. They'd move one foot forward and then drag the other one. And then, and then move the other foot forward and then drag the other one behind it to get attention. And to get attention for what? I am somebody. I'm somebody worthy of taking note of. Look at me. Even though they weren't going anywhere and they weren't doing anything. But that's that struggle to be recognized as something special, to be recognized as a man, whatever that means. We've always sought that. We get in fights about it. Fights, and even today, this thing about respect. Man, you're not going to respect me. You're going to respect me. You're not going to disrespect me like that. And we're just starved for it. But the white supremacists, the reason we're starved for it is because the white supremacist says, you are nothing. You are nothing. And first of all, you definitely are not a man. I'm the man. There's only one man in this house, and the house is the entire planet. And that man is white. None of you black people, I don't care what you get or what you do or how much brain power you have or how you two go around trying to impress the ladies and all like that. You are a boy, because there's only one man on this planet, and he's white. There's no such thing as a black man. Every last one of them is a boy. Why? Because a boy is dependent on a man, and I am the man. Now, show me anything that you black people have that you didn't get from me.
Wow.
A job, education, a business, a house. You only have it because you either got it directly from me or I let you have it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it. I'm the man. And black people in the old days used to say it. On jobs and everything else. Hey, y'all better be quiet. Here come the man.
I remember that. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you
so that's what that's about.
Yes.
That's what all of that is about. So that's the white supremacists letting us know. I don't care. O.J. Simpson. Who are you? You're nobody without me.
Tony Dungy?
Yes, right. Michael Vick, who are you? Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson. You're nothing without me. I'm going to keep you a boy, and if you want to be anything other than a boy, then I will help you to make you into a girl. Put on a dress, and I'll give you a movie and whatnot.
Okay.
Following the logic, go that route, but it's not going to be one man on this planet. Don't you forget it, boy.
Following the logic, why would they do that? What's the purpose of doing that?
White supremacy.
Okay.
White supremacists don't do anything except something that's going to support white supremacy.
Okay.
Now, they go through 4 stages. The first stage is getting it established. I don't know when the first white person got the idea that, hey, we're going to have a whole world order based on color, and I'm going to be the king of that world order. So, at some time in the past, somebody did it. Some people said it was 400 to 500 years ago. Some people say 600 years. Some people say 2,000 years. All right? So that's a long time when somebody thought of the idea of this thing called racism. Somebody white thought it up and put it into action. And some people say it's been in action that long, 2,000 years. That's a long-running show.
Yes, sir.
And so just dominate and mistreat people based on color. That's all it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Dominating and mistreating people and based on color.
Okay. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Dr. or Mr. Neely Fuller, exclusively here on TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. And if you would like to call in and ask Dr. Fuller any questions, you may do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, and he will be more than happy to answer your question. Dr. Fuller, this is the third week that we're going to bring this up because it happened again in New York City. And I did see the video that the New York City Police Department went to an apartment and drug out a naked black woman in front of her neighbors, embarrassing her and all that type of brutality, all because there was an alleged case of somebody called in and said that there was some an argument or a disturbance going on. The week one, we had Eric Garner, who was choked and killed, and they did an autopsy and found out that he was choked and killed by the New York City Police Department. I saw the video of that, and it was determined that it was murder, that he was killed. Whoever takes care of that certified that's how he died. He was actually murdered. It's on the video. A black man, a black man got detained for barbecuing outside. And now we have this right here, this woman being dragged out of her apartment, naked, exposed so everybody can see. And black folks were around. There was a black guy that was filming all this so that the world could see this. When you look at that, what does that say, and what does that mean?
Oh, well, headlines in black newspapers going back to the 1920s and whatnot always talked about just two words: police brutality. I mean, you're going to find that. I mean, anytime somebody's reporting that, that's all over the map. I mean, year after year, day after day. That's not going to stop as long as you have the system of white supremacy. That's what people have to realize. You've got to replace the entire system, not just peck at it, I mean, which is all we've been able to do so far. I mean, just, decry it and demonstrate against it and all like that. And we have called a lot of attention to it. And overall, when it comes to things, black people have what you might call made a lot of progress with, as using a cliche, we have a very, 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 very long ways to go. But that thing called police brutality, which I say really isn't police brutality, that's the white supremacists doing some race soldiering. I gave that a new title.
Okay.
Because I said you cannot be a police officer and be a racist. That's number one. That's impossible. That's not going to happen. That's the frame of reference I say everybody should take. You're not a police officer if you're a racist.
Yeah, what are you?
Racists have positioned themselves, and they are imposters. They're pretending to be police officers.
Okay.
So that now, why would I do that? It's because there are people who believe in correct law enforcement. So you just don't want to say the police. That's just like saying that Americans are racist, which is what black people have gotten in the habit of doing. America has done this to black people. America ain't never been right about black people. America has done this. We're using the incorrect terms. That's why I put out a word guide.
Yes, sir.
Because it's no such thing as an American mistreating anybody.
Wow.
I'm going to say that again. That's impossible. It's impossible for an American to mistreat anybody. Why? Because the definition of an American. Now, what is that definition? There's no official definition for the term American, okay? So I gave it a compensatory one based on truth, or based on what it should be if we're going to use the word at all. An American is a person that doesn't mistreat anybody and doesn't allow anybody to be mistreated. And that also applies to an African or an Asian.
Mm-hmm.
But there are none of these people on this planet. They don't exist. Why? Because the system of white supremacy. That's why. See, this is how you make that equation. See, there is such a thing as social and political mathematics. And it's what is mathematics? Mathematics is a form of logic. So you do the same thing when you use words to describe things. Words have meaning. So you say, well, what exactly is an American? Is it like the song say, a mountain, a sea to shine and see? Is that an American? There are even songs about, Ray Charles when he sings, "Oh, beautiful," for spacious skies. Well, you got spacious skies all over the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So is a spacious sky American? And they even say the American eagle. The eagle doesn't know anything about that. Eagles go everywhere. But they say that eagle is an American and put it on top of a flagpole.
Mm-hmm.
Not the eagle itself, but the insignia of some artistic thing that they will put right on top of a flagpole, on top of the flag, by the way. You would think that the eagle, since it's a bird of prey, wouldn't even be up there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of message are you sending? You're going to have a flagpole with the so-called American flag on that pole and then put an eagle on top of the flag? And an eagle swoops down on helpless prey. That's what an eagle does.
Yeah, it does.
And devours it. So you're sending a mixed message there. So getting back to what is an American? An American is a person that doesn't mistreat people and doesn't allow anyone to be mistreated.
Okay.
And you don't find a person like that anywhere on this planet. Why? Because the white supremacy is all about mistreating people, and they boss everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. That's the equation.
Okay.
Now, you can take that equation to the bank. Nobody can refute this.
Okay.
Once they try. They'll only find out by trying to refute it, they'll only be able to find out that they can't refute it with that type of argument because it's a logical argument.
Okay, but going back to the question about you mentioned the term police brutality. Now I have seen the videos of the incidents that I am addressing, and of course this is the third week that this has happened. I saw the lady being drug out of her apartment, and she did not have any clothes on. I think the New York Post had the pictures of the guy that took the video of it. There were about 12 police officers, and the woman, she was naked, and allegedly there was some type of argument or some type of disturbance that they had to be called in. 12 police officers for one woman, and they were telling people to get back into their apartments and so forth. I wasn't there. I don't exactly know what happened, but I do know that they drugged this naked woman out of her apartment, and she was a black woman. And that just kind of bothered me in lieu of the fact that 2 weeks you've had a brother that was killed, choked to death by the New York City Police Department, and then another person who was accosted for barbecuing outside. And as far as I know, there's no law against that. So as a black person, how should we look at that? I mean, 3 straight weeks of this.
Yes, the straight answer is, in the system of white supremacy, you look at it that this is how you treat a black person in the system of white supremacy. It's not but one government. It's not like there's several governments to choose from. You got one government on the planet. And that government, the title of that government is the system of white supremacy. And in the system of white supremacy, you're supposed to drag black females down the street naked or do anything else you can with them because they are worth nothing. They're worthless.
Wow.
The title worthless fits every person on the planet who is black and or who is of color. We are worthless. See, look at the word worthless. I call them the throwaway people. That's what we are in the system of white supremacy. Everybody who's non-white, it doesn't make any difference about your education or how you strut down the street or how you say it, I demand respect. The white supremacists say, who are you? What are you without me? Anytime you make a move, You got to get my permission anywhere on this planet. So why should I give you any regard at all? Yeah, I'll drag you naked black females up and down the street and kick them up and down the street, and you're not going to do anything about it. And not only that, I will teach you to do the same thing, which you do, you black males. Beat them up. Drag them down the street. Call them bitches and whores. That's what they are. That's what your mother is. That's what your sister is. That's what that girlfriend that you got is. Because you are nothing, and neither is she. I'm a white supremacist. Shut up.
Wow.
See, now, this is what they're really saying when they're among themselves.
Wow.
But when they come out in the refinement stage of white supremacy, this is 2014, they come out and they smile and handshake and all like that. But really, they're looking at us, and justifiably so, really, with absolute contempt.
Okay. We have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Just state your first name and where you're calling from.
How you doing? This is Al from Baltimore.
Okay, Al, go ahead.
Hey, I just want to ask Mr. Fuller's take on the Ebola situation. I see that over 1,300 black people died in Africa, and then 2 white people all of a sudden catch Ebola, and out of nowhere they come up with a miracle serum, and they got the cure for it the minute the 2 white people get, the Ebola.
Okay.
So I kind of just wanted to see Mr. Fuller's take on that.
Okay. Dr. Fuller?
Wait a minute. I haven't heard about this. It's what now?
Yeah. Okay. It's been an outbreak of Ebola in
Ebola.
Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Yeah. Sierra
Leone. I didn't catch the word Ebola. Right. Anytime some disease shows up, and just look at the word itself, Ebola, very close to ebony. I mean, where'd that term come from? Why was it called Ebola? I mean, there's a lot of questions to be asked and answered, because everything, all intelligence comes from the process of questions and answers. So you question everything, starting with the term. Who came up with this term? And then they say it's a mystery disease. Well, is it a mystery? A mystery to whom? To the general population, but maybe it's not a mystery to someone who probably manufactured it in a laboratory. I mean, let's look at the history of HIV. Let's look at the Tuskegee experiments. See, always be suspicious of somebody reporting some mysterious disease among dark people. Oh, we got another disease, in the Congo. We never heard of it before. Well, why is it peculiar? It's in the Congo. It's among the dark people. Don't get close to the dark people. You'll catch this disease. All right? Until we go in and suppress it, of course, and come up with a vaccine against it, of course. Of course, when we go in with the vaccine, we come in with a whole bunch of other people who are doing other things like maybe, you got some diamonds over there. We might as well pick up a few of those while we're here. How about that? See, in other words, I'm saying those white supremacists. I'm not saying that everybody who's involved who is white is a white supremacist. But anything that happens to non-white people on this planet that shouldn't happen, the white supremacists are to blame. That's an automatic thing. That's a part of, should be the counter-racist code that I advocate that everybody adopt. If you hear about anything happening to non-white people anywhere on the planet that shouldn't happen, you automatically blame the white supremacists. They are the usual suspects. Why? Because they're in charge of everything.
All right.
You always blame the people who are in charge. Always.
Hold on, Dr. Fuller. TalkToMeRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesdays and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download TalkToMeRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go where you go. Radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We're going to get into a very controversial subject, the missing J, religiously, on the compensatory concept with Dr. Neely Fuller. Coming up next.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Do you need wheelchair or car transportation for medical appointments or other personal needs? Our mission at Phoenix Accessible Transportation is to provide reliable, on-time, quality, and affordable transportation while eliminating barriers that the disabled and senior population currently face. We are licensed, insured, Medicaid approved.
Hi, I'm Ron, the owner of Phoenix Accessible Transportation. Call me at 614-746-9362, 614-746-9362 to schedule an appointment or visit our website at wheelchairshuttlevan.com.
Have you ever wished you could spend more time with your kids or maybe quality time with your spouse when you can actually have an uninterrupted conversation? Do you owe your dad a little catch-up time? Well, it's time to reconnect, and no activity can bond a family together quite like boating and fishing. I mean, think of all the great experiences you had as a kid when you went boating or fishing. Well, guess what? It's still great. Boating and fishing are the perfect opportunities for your family to get away, to talk, to laugh, to create new memories. So take someone you love out on the water and see where the water takes you. If you haven't been on the water in a while and you're not sure where to start, or if you just like to have some helpful tips for your next trip, please visit TakeMeFishing.org. This has been a public service of TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard.
For information on everything from passports to driver's licenses to local weather, go to firstgov.gov. Firstgov.gov, the official source for federal, state, and local government information.
Years ago, identical twins were separated at birth. Chris Paul was destined for life of basketball. Cliff Paul was destined to become a State Farm agent. They shared one invaluable trait. They were both born to assist. Find an agent born to get you to a better state.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hi, this is Bobby West, the new host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. And yes, I am back. So tune in every Wednesday for the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller with your new co-host, Bobby West, right here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You got the power.
All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and you're listening to the Compensatory Concept with Dr. Neely Fuller. You can also call him Mr. Fuller. He doesn't care as long as you call him. And you can get in contact with us by calling 1-877-932-9766. And he'll be happy to answer your questions. Dr. Fuller, on the list of the human activities, when you mentioned economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, and religion, and then there's sex and war. On the religion part, I discovered an article that came up and said about the mistaken J. Basically, the article was saying that when did the letter J come into existence? And it said this article was by the way, by the by Dr. Lee Warren and edited by Dr. Michelle Huff in 2001, called the Plym Report. And what they did was they did a study on it and found out that the letter J actually did not come into existence until around the 14th century. Let me read this. According to the Encyclopedia Americana, contains the following quote on the letter J. The form of J was unknown in any alphabet until the 14th century. Either the symbol J or I, used initially, generally had the consonantal sound of a Y, as in year. Generally, the two sounds J and I were differentiated, the J usually acquiring the consonantal sound force, and thus becoming regarded as a consonant, and the letter I becoming vowed. It was a vowel. It was not until 1630 that the differentiation became general in England. Note, in the original 1611 version of the King James Version of the Bible, there was no J letter in the Bible because it did not exist. James was spelled I-A-M-E-S. Jesus was spelled I-E-S-O-U-S. In the Hebrew alphabet, there is no letter J or sound, and it is shown, and they have a little diagram, but that shows that. Now, if that's true, which, I've done some research on this, that the letter J did not exist until the 14th century, then it's obvious that the Messiah, and I do believe in the Messiah, could not have possibly been called Jesus. So we've been saying the wrong name, according to the article. How did the name Jesus originate? Now, if that's true, in the system of white supremacy, how would this work? I think I know what you're going to say, but how is this being brought forth, or how is this being produced or administered to us? Are we being, as Malcolm X said, bamboozled, or what?
Well, if a white supremacist has anything to do with anything, the first thing that you're going to get from the white supremacists in their methods of going about dominating people is the spread of confusion. And they got everything in their arsenal that will do that. Mm-hmm. And they are successful in that business because there's a universal principle, logical principle, that if it's 10 people in a room, I'll give this as an illustration. Okay. This is one I give all the time. If there's 10 people in a room, the person who is the least confused will be the dominant person in that room. It might be the fifth person, it might be the third person, whatnot. The person who is least confused will be the dominant person in that room. That will be the person that everybody will go to. So the first thing that the white supremacists do when they move among dark-skinned people is cause confusion. And one way that they have of causing confusion is through language. So they will call black white if that will work. I mean, just anything that will work. And in the area of religion just means a strong belief backed up by action. And the strongest religion on the planet is the system of white supremacy. Wow. There's no religion stronger than the religion of white supremacy. And what is the religion of white supremacy? Just a strong belief backed up by action. And why is that the strongest religion? Is because the people who believe in white supremacy really believe in it. They don't play with it. They really believe that. And not only that, they back it up with action, because that is the real, you might say, compensatory or the logical definition for the word religion. Mm-hmm. So they practice their religion. Other people cut corners on their religion. And when the white supremacists took over non-white people, they decided what the non-white people's religion would even include, and what it wouldn't include. Mm-hmm. That's why they're in the process of changing the religion for black people in the Baptist church right now. I mean, a lot of things that black people say was a sin, or that you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. I mean, you can't gamble and all like that. The white supremacists walk in and say, oh yeah, you're going to have gambling. And you say, well, we don't think that's not our tradition. I mean, that gambling be a part of the church. I said you're going to have gambling as a part of your church. Negro, you take your orders from me. Now, you can worship anybody you want to when it comes to praying. But when I walk up and tell you to do something, you are going to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll guarantee you that. Now, the white supremacists have proven, that's why I say that they are the strongest religion, because everybody cuts corners on their religion if they have dark skin, if they're classified as non-white. When the white supremacists come around and say, you're going to take this out of your politics, you're going to teach this in your schools, you're going to teach this in your churches. Why? Because I said so.
Okay. Well, then the question would come up with me then, and I do believe the premise of what you're are alluding to, then how could Jesus, and I call him Yahshua, God saves, how could he go from Hebrew to being white? I remember coming into houses when I was coming up and seeing a picture of a white man with long hair, stringy hair, and a beard, and they told me that was a picture of Jesus. But when I looked and read in the Bible and found out where he was born, it did bring about some kind of confusion to me. Now, was this deliberately done to confuse us?
Everything that a white supremacist has something to do with, and they have something to do with everything where black people are concerned, is going to be automatically confusing. This is why you got a different church on every corner, and everybody's hitting each other over the head with the Bible. Right now, as we speak, in a large part, I forgot where it is specifically, but I think it's the Ivory Coast or one of those places. I don't want to misname what it is. Truth is very important, but I understand that Christians are fighting Christians, and also they're fighting Muslims among black people, all of whom have absolutely nothing, for the most part, comparatively speaking. All of them are pretty down and out. I mean, they don't have, the education. They don't have enough food.
Yes, sir.
Most of them are just, spend all their time trying to get some food, but they're fighting each other about what the Bible means, what black people do in every barber shop. So what you have there, when you don't have people speaking unanimously, and agreeing on the same things, you have what the white supremacists feed off of, confusion. So when they come around, they will say, oh, that's what the Bible meant yesterday. They're doing that right now, right in your face. Oh, you're talking about what the Bible meant yesterday. Oh, yeah, it was yesterday. But it doesn't mean that today. And you say, well, but the Bible hadn't changed. How can it change overnight? It changed because I said so, boy. Now shut up. See, that's the white supremacists, and they actually do this right to our face. They do it. They say, I'm saying it. I'm saying it. I'm telling you what the Bible means. I'm telling you what those words in the Bible means. I'm telling you what the name of Jesus is today, And you say, well, it wasn't that way yesterday, and it wasn't that way, among my forefathers and all like that. Hey, I don't care about you and your forefathers. You don't know anything. I interpret the Bible.
Okay.
See, that's what they do. Right to our face. They do this all the time. This is not nothing they do every now and then. They do this every day. They tell you what everything means. That's what white supremacy means. And if you say, well, it doesn't make sense. I'm the only person on the planet, this is the voice of the white supremacists now, that when it comes to you people, I tell you what makes sense. If I say that green is blue, take it to the bank, because that's my bank, and that's the only way you'll get paid. I tell you what the gospel is. You don't do nothing on your own, on my planet.
And they can back that up because of the position of power that they have. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And every religious leader on this planet knows that. They come in, I don't care what your religion is. Whether you're Muslim, Confucianist, atheist. If you say you don't even believe in God, the white supremacist says, oh, you cannot believe in God if I approve of it.
Wow.
You know? Oh, yeah, if I approve of it, all right? Because all you black people, I don't care what your religion is, you better obey me.
Wow.
And you have obeyed me, and your forefathers obeyed me. It's called white supremacy, boy. Wake up and smell the coffee.
1-877-932-9766 if you'd like to call in for a comment for Dr. Fuller. This is TalkTimeRadio.com, and you are listening to the compensatory concept with Dr. Neely Fuller. You can call him Mr. Fuller. I call him Doctor because he's giving out good information and a prescription to how to deal in this world that we see. Dr. Fuller, based on that last comment, since they are in a position of dominant and in the 9 areas of human activity, which again are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, based on what you just said, then when it comes down to the education in the system of white supremacy, then are you saying that they are the ones that teach us what they want us to know, to be educated by that system, to be indoctrinated into what they want us to be indoctrinated into?
That's another aspect of white supremacy, the second area of activity, of people activity. Number 2, which is education in alphabetical order.
Yes, sir.
After economics. Education means the process of learning. That's what it is. So the white supremacist says, I will teach you what you need to know. You don't determine what you need to know. I will teach you, and I will credentialize you. And you have black people. I mean, you know, you can't blame us as black people. I mean, what do we know except what they say? I mean, you know, and they say that this is the way it is, and this is the way it is, and this is the way it is, and this is the curricula for your school. I mean, you know, because your school is really my school. I'm telling you what the qualifications you have to have in order to do this and do that. And I'll give you a plaque or a piece of paper saying that you have now graduated. Because if you come up with one on your own, I'm going to look at it and ask you, what's that? Now, that's the white supremacist talking to a black person. What's this you got? A lady? What's this you have, fella? Oh, say, well, I credentialize myself. I think that, you know, I'm sort of self-taught and whatnot. Well, you on my planet, you're going to be self-taught? Well, you can teach yourself whatever you want to, but you have to have credentials if you're going to be able to operate on my planet. Now, what are your credentials? And if I would show the white supremacist something with my signature on it and say, well, I taught myself this, so I have, credentials in this. Credentials means credibility. And the white supremacist says, you black people have no credibility at all until I give you a piece of paper saying that you have graduated from such and such a college. And if you don't have that piece of paper with my signature on it, you are nothing.
Wow.
You're not supposed to think for yourself in the first place. And you come up here with a piece of paper that you wrote and say that you have these credentials because you are able to do this and do that. If I didn't, if my signature is not on there anywhere, for any of you black people all over Africa or any place else, if my signature is not on that piece of paper, then everything that you have on that piece of paper is invalid. And you are not going to get any benefits on my planet based on what you're telling me.
Wow.
I have to look at what you're doing and rubber stamp it or authorize it, put my signature on it. Now you can go forward and tell the rest of your black people that you now have been authorized to be a human being.
Okay. Now, based on what you just said, how would you address the concerns of young black men, boys, women, girls? How would you address that? Because I don't think they would like hearing what you just said.
I was on another radio station yesterday, and people called in. People always say, you're giving the white man, you're giving these white people too much credit. I say what I'm doing is holding up a mirror to the truth. Now, you can go and look in the mirror, and so a mirror is nothing but a reflection, and then you can go and look at the actuality. That's why I always tell black people, don't believe anything Neely Fuller ever says about anything. If he tells you it's raining, don't believe it. If Neely Fuller tells anybody that it's raining outside, ever, don't believe him. He might be lying. You don't even know who he is. All right? He might not even be Neely Fuller. I mean, you don't know who people are.
Right.
But go and check and see if you're going to get wet if you step outside.
Okay.
Now, there ain't nothing better than that. So I always tell people, if I say something about the white supremacists, just go check. I mean, you don't have to go very far. You don't have to go all over the world. Just go and check how black people act around white people who may or may not be white supremacists.
Okay.
In all of the areas of activity, and see who's telling who what to do.
Okay.
See what I mean? Just go and check that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if you get ready to go into business, go and check and see who you go and talk to if you're really serious.
Okay.
And you're going to get some serious money.
All
go
right.
and see who you actually talk to. Take a look at what they look like.
Okay. Dr. Fuller, we have a call. Go ahead, caller. State your first name and where you're calling from.
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes, go ahead. State your first name and where you're calling from.
My name is Rachel. I'm calling from Detroit. I've called for the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because I just stumbled across this, this new information. But my question is, I wanted to know Mr. Fuller's opinion, I guess, on what these so-called UFOs that we've been hearing about over the years. Does he have an opinion on that? I mean, I don't know. I just was wondering if you could comment on that.
All right.
What's your UFOs?
Yes, that's what she said. Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Unidentified flying objects. Oh, my opinion is it's just something I've heard about. And, the white supremacists definitely would know about it. I mean, like I said, they are the people that everybody goes to for any kind of information about insects or anything, flowers, clouds, what the weather's going to be, whether or not it's going to rain tomorrow. I mean, what do black people know? I mean, we have to check. In the old days, we say, check with me. Don't ask me nothing. I'm black. Check with Mr. Charlie. He knows everything. And Mr. Charlie is the old slang term for the master on a slave plantation. Okay? In other words, check with somebody white. What do we know? I mean, if you check with Neely Fuller or somebody like that, I mean, you're not really checking with anybody that knows anything. I mean, a common slang, as far back as I can remember, among black people, and it's an accurate slang, is that, shut up, man, you don't know nothing. That's a black person talking to another black person.
Okay.
We brag about the little bit that we're allowed to know. Why? We are only allowed to know but so much in the system of white supremacy. Because the white supremacy is our source of information. We go on, I'll be the person who's reading the news, but it comes down to where do I get it? President Obama, he sits behind a desk, and people bring him stuff. What people? Somewhere among those people who are sliding pieces of paper across that desk, some of those messages are coming from white supremacists with the white supremacist agenda. You can count on that. So President Obama will pick up that piece of paper and he'll say, I'm going on the news this evening, and I'm going to tell the people what the deal is in Sumatra. Now, he's not in Sumatra, so he's dependent on people to bring him accurate information. And who are the information masters on the planet Earth? They're the white supremacists. That's who.
So, in lieu of her question about the UFOs, can you see a scenario where the white supremacists would use this as a trick to get you to believe what they want you to believe, rather than if you do your own research and discover that the so-called UFOs were really nothing more than fallen angels, and that there was war in heaven and God kicked them out. They came here to this planet and mated with the women according to what the Bible has indicated, and became giants. And there is factual evidence that the giants did, in fact, and still do exist on this earth. But they use that to, as you said earlier, to confuse people.
Always. It's two ways to nominate people: direct violence and confusion. And confusion means deceit. The best way to confuse somebody is to deceive them.
Absolutely.
The white supremacists, their package of deception is super.
You got that right.
So
Yes.
therefore, it's very difficult to tell anything what is the truth, because the deceiver is hiding the truth.
That's hiding the truth.
Whatever it is. So even when you tell the white supremacists, I don't believe you, and they'll just simply say, okay, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'll tell you what, if I want you to believe me, all I got to do is just cut off your food. And when you come to me, I'll say, now, do you want to believe me now, or do you want to eat? All right?
Okay, so Rachel, I guess, to me, what I interpret from that, they want you to believe, the white supremacists want you to believe that there are aliens or UFOs or whatever, but there's really no such thing if you start to hone in your research according to what the Bible has said, and then break it down. And there's more than one Bible that you can go to, but when you begin to break it down that way, then the pattern becomes clear. As Steve Coakley said, you start to connect the dots, and you can see, what's been going on, UFOs and all the other kind of stuff. Did that answer your question?
It answers it. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, good. Dr. Fuller, in our remaining moments, I was told, and I think you were in the war, I was told by one of our staff members about there were lies that were told in the war, World War II in particular, that black people had tails. For whatever the reason. I want you to answer that, and also this new craze that's going on among black people about burning themselves. There's been some videos on Facebook and so forth that a new trend is for young black men to burn themselves. Could you address that in the remaining moments that we have?
Well, for one thing, in the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists will promote anything that is tacky, trashy, and terroristic among black people themselves, worldwide, 24/7. As long as it's tacky. Tacky means something that's slipshod, like even trying to put up a building. I mean, you start putting it up, but since you're so incompetent, the building falls down before you even get it up. I mean, those people don't know how to do anything, unless a white supremacist is there to crack that whip over them or supervise, give them superior advice on how to do it. Now, if even when black people interact with white people, it's tacky. I mean, in a party setting and all like that, it's tacky. I mean, just the way that they interact with each other, it usually doesn't come across as anything constructive going on. Okay? Now, I call it the 3 T's, the tragic arrangement. It's 3 ways that black people are going to interact with each other under the system of white supremacy, and it's 3 ways that they can interact with white people. That's tacky, trashy, terroristic. Now, anything outside of that, you're outside of where you're supposed to be acting.
So how does that relate to the fact that they said that we had tails?
Oh, that's, they're animals. That's what the soldiers, that's what, when I was overseas, I mean, they always said, keep away from, they're not really people. There's some animals with some uniforms on. I mean, and they got tails. They tuck their tails back where, you can't detect them when they're just walking and with the pants on and all like that. But if they, and their World War II is really where it really spread, because when a black male would be with a, you might call a foreign female, I mean, and take his clothes off, first thing she'd look for is his tail. Where's your tail? Lots of black guys said that. They'd say, and the black guy would say, here we go again.
Here we go.
Right.
And finally, the last part about this new craze about black people, young black people in particular, putting on clothes and putting something on their chest and then lighting it up and burning. What's going on with that?
What's going on with that is the white supremacists, again, they approve of anything that a black person does that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
They will not only approve of it, they will finance it.
Wow.
If it doesn't make sense. I mean, you can get it done. I mean, try to do anything that makes sense and see how much support you get.
All righty. TalkSummitRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why one should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.